Did you listen to the hot breakfast this morning? Here's what you missed.
Esther Anyieni Okenyuri.
Widely known as AC.
AC.
Yeah.
I like that. Why do they call you AC?
It's short for
I think
Esther.
it's short, and my father used to use that name a lot, so people caught up with it.
It's like, why do people call you Jeff? Like, because I'm called Emmanuel. That might happen.
So, Jeff, you clearly mentioned that I'm the youngest nominated senator.
Yes.
Different from what people always imagine, that it's a house of retirees. We are actually changing that narrative. This time around, we have very many young senators in the House. And I came in as a late entrant, because I came in to replace Honorable Soipan Tuya, who joined the cabinet as CS for environment.
Right.
UDA had nominated 8 women, so when she left, I was next on the IBC list. That's how I ended up taking that position.
Were you surprised?
Not surprised. I attribute it to God hard work, and I'm a true definition of the bottom-up philosophy that we largely campaigned on. Because, Jeff, I didn't know people in Nairobi. I'm right from a village whose coordinates you not even locate, I guess.
Where is it? What's it called?
That's Kenya in Bomachoge Borabu constituency. We border Kilgoris, that's in Transmara. And you see, that's why I told you might not actually locate.
I've been to Kilgoris.
But have you been to Kenya?
No.
You see? So for me, I wasn't surprised really, because mine is out of hard work, merit, and God. I have been very instrumental in the UDA command centers that you would see giving parallel results, all the way from Sambweni to Kiamba. It's actually in the Kiamba by-election that I realized that President William Ruto was actually winning this election.
The presidential?
Yes.
That's when you realized it.
If in one constituency,
Deep
in the backyard
in
of the
Jubilee.
president, with the support of the opposition and government machinery, they lost. What about when they were going to be faced with more than 200 constituencies? It would be massive.
And that's when you realized.
Yes, that's when I realized we are taking it. So, Jeff, other people got nominated, and of course young people felt they didn't have one of their own that they would identify. Luckily, by being in that position, the president was able to say, yeah, we will follow the law, and the IBC list was followed as it were. That's how I ended up in the Senate. So in the Senate,
What's your typical day like, Esther?
I start my day at 5 in the morning, then 5 to 6. Between that time, I pray, I do a little exercise. Then 6, I leave for town, because then I have committees. Some committees start as early as 7 a.m. to around 12:30. From 12:30 to 2, we have lunch. From 2:30, I get into the chamber till 6:30. I normally do not check in and leave, because as a young legislator, I need to spend quite some time to also learn the rules and procedures of the House and be a good debater, so that I also get to be like some of the veterans in that House. And I also feel like I need time to also represent the young people issues, special interest groups which have been largely disadvantaged in this country. Yes, Jeff.
Have they welcomed you well? Do you feel welcome? Has it been difficult? Has it been challenging?
No, the Senate is very warm. Actually, even before I was sworn in, the bullfighter, Senator Halwali, was one of the first people who welcomed me before I was even sworn in. And when I was actually sworn in, most of the senators who came there before me have been very helpful, like Senator Wamatinga, Professor Ujenda of Kisumu. And you realize it's on both sides, Azimio, Kenya Kwanza, where once we are in the Senate, on most instances, we push issues on priority being people's interests before we get back to our different affiliations. So I've settled in well. I serve in the Committee of Health as a member. I'm in the Powers and Privileges Committee. I'm also the Vice Chair of the Trade, Industrialization and Tourism Committee.
That's a lot of committees.
Yes.
Let me ask you, in these committees, are you making any major progress? We had Senator Roba the other day here, and he said that, there's a lot of bureaucracy and processes being very slow, because you can start, lobbying for something now. It could take 2-3 years before it's effected, and then the next person comes in the next term, and then things are kind of shelved. Is there proper progress now? Like you said, you're doing things for the youth.
There's huge. Okay, from my bit, I would say there is progress, because remember, in this country, we push agenda as a matter of collaborating with other people. You cannot push an agenda on your own.
Yeah.
When you're doing it on your own, then you'll expect things to move at your pace. But when it's a matter of collaborating with other stakeholders, then it will take some considerable time. Because look at this example. If you want something that is very instant, then you'll come up with a statement to be addressed, because the Senate is not an implementing body on some of those issues. So you either write to the line ministry for a response. You can also come up with a motion whereby senators will debate and make a resolution that as a Senate we resolve this is what we want. Or you come up with a bill, which now will quite take some time, because at some point you need to incorporate public views, what are the stakeholders that the bill will be touching on, concern. So you realize when you go that route, it'll take some time. But I believe with patience, if you're genuine about your push, you shouldn't be worried about how long it's taking, so long as you eventually get where you want to be. So I think there are few hiccups here and there, but on the positive side, Nick and Jeff, today we are marking the 10th anniversary of the Senate being in existence. When we had the second Senate that was being led by Honorable Ekwe Thuro, those guys were even now dealing with very many challenges on how now to operate, being the first ones, because we had the first Senate that was abolished in 1966. But now with the new constitution and the new government structures that were being put up, there were many challenges then, as we see now. Look at the third Senate. There were quite good debates that time during the third revenue allocation that we had. You saw the contributions that were made by then Senator Sakaja, Senator Kilonzo, and we have women who are nominated, like myself, and have successfully transited to elective politics, like Senator Dulo, Senator Martha Wangari then, and now the Gilgil Member of Parliament serving her second term. So really, there are quite positive developments compared to challenges as you might want to look at them. And me, as a very positive person, normally likes looking at what is positive. Because even in my journey, when you look at my story, I've actually come from a family whom you would not even relate with. But it's taken me literally hard working, networking with the right people. Jeff, imagine from the village in Kenya, you drawing the attention of a deputy president, eventually coming to Nairobi, then finally ending up at the Senate, without being one of those big names. So I surely say when you have a focus and you're consistent in your cause, no matter how long it takes, you surely get there.
What is your end game? What is your ambition?
Ambition is priceless, Jeff. And we do not stop dreaming. But for now, I'm very keen on serving in my current assignment, so that young people, women, and people from where I come from can can gauge me and determine on a way forward. When the moment is right, you will see it. You do not have to say, this is what I want to be. Yeah.
And what do they think of you back in your village?
Oh, my village mates are very happy. For the first time in history, they are having such a position. They have never had it. So actually,
First time in history?
Yes, first time in history. Actually, when we were saying freedom came, it actually came. The Hustler Nation was not just a narrative. That's why I keep insisting that I'm actually the best example of the bottom-up philosophy that we largely campaigned on. I went to primary school like any other ordinary Kenyan. I did very well in my primary school, joining the Kenya High School. I left Kenya High School. I went to campus. I was a student leader in Masai Mara University, where my leadership capabilities were identified by my fellow students, voting me as the first female vice president of the Students' Union. That tells you, Jeff, you can see my journey is progressive, and I'm actually a very optimistic person. So my community is well represented, and I equally represent the rest of Kenyans or young people who share my story, who see their lives in mine, and who I see their lives in me. So they are well represented, Jeff.
You know, you've spoken about the bottom up and, you know, your journey from campus to where you are now. But now on the ground, the youth are really complaining that this bottom up is not working for them. Yeah, and that's...
Bottom up.
Safari, my friends, that's what you tell us. Now, the real bottom up, how is supposed to help?
Jeff, let me ask you, look at the current situation. Like today, everybody knows it's Maandamano Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Look at the people who are leading Maandamano. Mother Karua was admitted to the bar in 1982. My mother was in primary. Kalonzo was first elected in 1986. My mother was still in school. Raila Odinga was elected in 1992. I was being born then. You see? These are the people who are using young people to participate in maandamano. I've not seen them weka sufuria kwa kichwa, but they're encouraging young people No, I've not seen them. I've not seen them, but they want young people to participate in this. Some of them, their children's lives have already taken a course of its own. But for any other ordinary young person out here, they have nothing to put on the table. And having nothing to put on the table is not through maandamano. Nowadays, people can champion their different causes on social media, which we see being done widely, but joining an aspect like maandamano where you destroy people's property. And I know, Nick, you will want to ask why maandamano is not wrong, but I've never seen maandamano in this country that is peaceful. Somehow property will be destroyed. May the souls of those who have died along those causes rest in peace. That shouldn't be what we want to see. But if young people's energy would be directed to other issues of having an enabling environment that will support their small businesses, and which is the priority of this government. But what we are seeing is a deliberate attempt to divert the attention from real issues to other issues that we are now getting ourselves into. Nick, look at this. This is not a new story. We had before we had repealing of Section 2 of the Constitution, which we did. We said we need multi-party democracy, we got it. Moi must go, Moi went. We need a new Katiba, we got it. Isaac Hassan must go, he went. Elections are illegitimate, they were nullified. Repeat elections, they boycotted. It's a never-ending story. This is a case of a rebel without a cause. And I'm really very disappointed that the young people are the ones who are largely used. I want to encourage and urge our young people to desist from people who are using them to participate in destroying people's property, other than channeling their energies to building their socio-economic status, because those who are leading them have already secured the future of their children. And just like the comparison I was making, surely, if someone who is old enough to be my grandmother or grandfather is guiding me in that path and they already have a future for themselves, they have actually nothing to lose. On today's paper, I think it's Daily Nation that I've seen, in a minute, I saw somewhere saying, looks like Raila Odinga might actually not vie
in 2027.
He hinted somewhere.
He said he's not running.
So the Azimio group has realized that surely there is nothing much we can do, and I do not believe, honestly, it's a conversation about the cost of living. Because if it was a conversation about the cost of living, let us call the pastors, let us call Mama Mboga, let us call all leaders. But the moment you say that, no one will be willing to come to the table. You see, it started with challenging the decision of the
court, the IBC.
We went to the Supreme Court. There was a ruling there. The Azimio came out and said they now be praying outside IBC every day. You know, the prayers is more of exerting pressure on an independent commission to heed into your demands. After that, late after some time, we had Governor Orengo saying we now want President Ruto to sit down with Raila Odinga in brotherhood and talk. And why I do not take those sentiments lightly, Governor Orengo is not any other governor in the Azimio brigade. Governor Orengo is from Siaya, and you know what that means. When the president respectively declined to those talks because he knows what they are leading to, it's another clamor for wanting to be in government through a handshake, which I still insist was a very bad leadership experiment we had in this country. So for me, if it's an honest conversation about all other stakeholders being brought on the table, yes. But surely those guys will not agree the moment you say that, oh, let's now call Mama Mboga, let's call other stakeholders, because they know what the end game is, Jeff. So do you think young people or women who are most affected in some of these issues want to participate in that? They will be willing to participate in forums that are talking about their welfare, forums that are talking about their well-being, forums that are addressing the challenges young people in this country are facing. Why do I have to get a good conduct every time I'm applying for a job, and I do not even eventually end up getting that job anyway? Those are the issues young people want to hear about. Women want to pregnant women want to quickly get to hospital. Now, some of the women lose their children before they even get to the hospital. Those are some of the issues we want to see. We are losing many innocent people due to negligence in hospitals. Those are issues we should be addressing in ensuring services get closer to the people. That is what devolution envisioned, and that's what me as a senator should be on the front line pushing, not putting a sufuria on my head.
So technically, all those things that they're asking for, are they realistically possible to be executed? Like, you know, bringing back subsidies, reinstating the last.
Let me give you this real example. Nick, even when we had those subsidies before election, I was buying a packet of unga at 250 shillings with a subsidy.
Yes.
Now, without a subsidy, it's at 193 shillings. You can check.
Yeah.
And I do not have to Google about that because I interact with these things on a daily basis. Another issue is climate change has affected everyone. Why I'm now telling you their clamor for cost of living is not genuine. And they even agree. I watch some of the Azimio leaders on those shows and the kind of information they are giving. It's quite misleading because we Kenyans are known as a nation that is largely reliant on rain-fed agriculture. And even the efforts to now engage people on embracing alternative ways of agriculture will take some time, and it has to be an effort from all stakeholders. So climate change has not just affected Kenya. And even the dollar issue that we are now seeing affecting the shilling, it's all in other countries. So we cannot use Kenya. You want to use Kenya as an example, then drive people to a certain course. People in turn take advantage of the prevailing situations to come up with violence. And it's really sad, Jeff and Nick, to have someone who will ban his own nation so that he only has the ground to rule over. It's really sad. Because me, if you ask me, I will never carry sufuria going to maandamano. These are, as look at like Azimio senators, you will see them in Mandamano, but in the Senate they're coming up with statements, they're coming up with petitions in committees, and they want to be assisted. But when they come out here, they're misleading their people that, you know, Mandamano is the only way to go. And I do not also understand, the president is someone the right honorable can just call and they engage. But because the issue of the cost of living is not genuine, they'll be very adamant and insist on Mandamano because they know what in the real sense they want. Thank you.
Senator Esther Anyieni Okenyuri, aka SC. Well done. This is a great conversation, and thank you for speaking out, and keep doing it. Keep doing it.